This is Gareth Southgate, and this is the Three Lions podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Three Lions podcast. My name is Russell Osborne and thanks for joining me. This is an independent England football supporters podcast. And with the September international window just coming to a close, we've got plenty to talk about in this episode. And we'll get onto that very soon. First though, I just wanted to say thank you for the feedback on the recent episode that I released. That was the one where I spoke with Coventry and England fan Brian Wright about his England travels. And that was part one of a two-part series. And that second part will be coming your way very soon. So stay subscribed at your usual podcast provider and you shouldn't miss it. Also, don't forget that the podcast is on all the usual social media channels, Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Just search Three Lions Podcasts. Give it a follow. Feel free to interact. It's always good to chat. Now, you may remember after the European Championships final in the summer, I was joined by Aidan Smith from threelions.net, Matt Astbury from Matt Astbury Sport on WordPress, and Dom Smith from englandfootball.org. And I'm pleased to say I've got the gang back together, individually this time, to chat about each game. So let's start with that result in Budapest with Aidan. Now it's my pleasure to welcome back to the Three Lions podcast. We haven't spoken since that final in July. Welcome back to Aidan Smith from threelions.net. Aidan.
Hi, Russell. How are we doing?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Thank you. I've recovered.
Yeah, haven't we all? Just. Yeah, let's talk Hungary, which we sort of had a brief conversation before the match was played. And I think it's safe to say we both kind of got our predictions wrong for this one.
Yeah, I don't really think there's any way else to put that, is it? We got it very wrong, I think.
Yeah, so we're away at Hungary. First of all, I just wanted to mention that there was only one change from that starting 11 that faced Italy in the summer. Grealish instead of Trippier. How did you feel? It all quite a strong lineup, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that was always going to be important. I kind of anticipated that being the case. Just get off to a good start after the summer. Got to remember also that on paper, I mean, many were saying that this was our toughest test of the 10 games.
Yeah, and
especially with it being probably in the worst possible place over the football calendar for the qualifiers, the first one in the September break. I mean, that's crucial, and everyone's got the stereotype of the September international break. It always goes wrong. No one's got energy. No one's got fitness. They've had a 2-week holiday after 7 games in a month period. I think back to last September, I don't know if you remember, we had Iceland in Reykjavik, Denmark away in Copenhagen, and it was a 1-0 victory with a penalty and then a 0-0 draw. And it was just the most tired, ugly football I've ever seen from England. And it just felt like the epitome of everything that could possibly go wrong in a September international break. I didn't feel like that yesterday. Partly, yeah, like you say, that was probably down to the lineup we put out. Yeah, I feel like we had a very sure game plan and that was executed well. It was just keep doing the right things. I'm sure that our halftime talk was pretty much that. Gareth saying, let's keep it going. You're doing the right things. Keep trying to run with the ball. Keep trying to make wise passes. Don't overthink anything. And eventually they will tire. Gaps will begin to form in their back line, in their midfield, and we'll be able to penetrate a little bit more. And that's exactly what we saw in the end. The first 2 goals were just nippy counterattacks, which got all of our attackers involved and lovely movement off the ball. And eventually it's poked into the net from close range. And that's exactly the kind of goals that you want to see, because that means that you've completely carved them open. That the real show that you are a better side, I think, when you look at what sort of goals you can score. I think throughout the second half, mainly, the only real threat that they had against England was scoring from a flicked on corner or one of the free kicks that they earned, or a counter-attack where we get caught out having one man back, which we didn't. So that was really pleasing as well. And yeah, 4-0 first game back, tough opposition. tough place to play, and I'm sure we'll get onto that in a minute. But yeah, you can't really complain with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Sterling, as you say, scored that first one to silence everyone. Kane got the header for the second from... That was, when I looked back on that goal, was a great worked goal. And it began with, like, I think it was Calvin Phillips just pinged a ball into Grealish, who put it onto Sterling, who just put it across, and Kane literally just flung himself at it. I mean, there's some great photos of him in the air, which was great. Maguire header for the third one, which the keeper had a shocker of a game, really, that second half. He fumbled that one in. And then Declan Rice from 4 from the outside of the area. Again, the keeper's, if he's not kicking himself, he's pretty much his teammates will be. But yeah, everyone had a real good game. Sterling in particular, I thought, and Grealish had a good game too. No one really came off that pitch for England thinking, I could have done better, I don't think, could they?
No, I wouldn't have thought so. I think, yeah, you mentioned Sterling, Grealish. These are the kind of players that everyone really takes note of when they play for England. These are the players that make things happen. That's the positions they play in. I have gotten quite frustrated at, in the lead up to a major tournament when everyone's got their opinions on what the starting lineup should be. And I was getting very frustrated just before the Euros and during the Euros when people were saying we should have some sort of midfield three of Foden, Grealish and Mount. I mean, the reason we love these players is because they do the creative attacking work.
Yeah.
And if you don't have those unfashionable Declan Rice kind of players in there, then they're not able to do that. They have to have some sort of defensive responsibility as well. Whereas if you have those defensive players in, it leaves them free to go forward and make things happen, which we saw certainly with the first and second goals. But yeah, I just touched on Rice there, and I want to touch on that a bit more. Declan Rice is the sort of player who I love because in the formation that we play now, we've got two sort of sweeping midfielders in front of the defence, and Calvin Phillips has become a favourite. Jordan Henderson was there beforehand.
Yeah.
And Jude Bellingham's coming through now. And with Declan Rice, because he does all the donkey work, it leaves that second one free to go and do all the running. And it makes them look absolutely amazing. Every time I see on the England Instagram account after a game and you see the touch map of Phillips or Henderson, whoever it was, because they've been given the freedom to go and do that.
Yep.
And that was certainly noticeable last night, was Calvin Phillips's free roam sort of role just behind the midfield, the attacking midfield three. Declan Rice's passing as well. I mean, I did a bit of poking around. I found out that, his pass success rate against Hungary the other night, it was 92.5%. And that is only his sixth best of this calendar year.
Really?
For England. Yeah. And he's played 10 games for England this calendar year, and that's his sixth best, 92.5%. I mean, that puts it in perspective, doesn't it? With a player like him, and he's only 22 years old, 23 in January. You can assume that he's going to be an England player for another, 11, 12 years? That's something to be quite excited about, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it makes you wonder. He's certainly not going to be a West Ham player for 11, 12 years on those sort of statistics.
No, well, I think if he were playing in the 1960s, you could probably argue that he would be, but no, yeah. Probably not now. Although, getting that experience with captaincy as well, that's something else that you've got to consider. Is he going to be a new addition to the leadership team when someone else drops out? These are all exciting prospects, and Declan Rice is among them, definitely among them, and something to be excited about because he gives those other players that freedom to do what they do for their clubs a bit more because it's more of a free-flowing game. And often people, they get frustrated about how cagey international football is. With Declan Rice there, I think it gives a little bit more freedom for them to go forward and give a bit more attacking impetus. And I really, really enjoyed seeing that last night. I think that was crucial to the win.
Yeah, and he's not afraid to get involved and be sort of photographed in some exciting areas. Yeah, with the flares and the beer and all that. He's made himself very much an England favourite. Yeah, I mean, we can't not talk about it though, can we? The atmosphere there. To start with, the anthems from watching it on the telly seemed to be quite well respected. Obviously, there were very few England fans there to be heard singing the English anthem, and the Hungarians respected that. And then obviously there was the taking of the knee, which got booed, and then the first half seemed to just go by with little or no events. And then obviously when England scored, Raheem Sterling scored, unfortunately, up at that end where their ultra sections were, he was rained down on by plastic cups, and then obviously the unsavoury chanting that was heard. I don't know what to say that hasn't been said already, really.
Yeah, well, we had a bit of a section on this after the Euros. I think it was after the Italy game we spoke about this, and we sort of covered everything there. But you think back to, it was away to Bulgaria in October 2019, and we got dangerously close to initiating the third point on the UEFA protocol, which is to abandon the game and walk off.
Yeah,
we had it even before then against Montenegro. In the last 2 or 3 years, these players have had to put up with quite a lot. And when you play in a hostile environment already, even without the racist abuse, as a, in Budapest, that's going to be, that's going to be a tough away fixture with tough away fans.
Yeah.
And then to experience that as well, I mean, it makes things very, very difficult for Gareth as well. I mean, I know this is the least of our worries, but he's got to make a decision then about, okay, can we put 18-year-old Jude Bellingham on the pitch? Is this something that's going to harm him for long term? He made a decision that, okay, Saka can deal with it, Lingard can deal with it, Sterling, Calvin Phillips, Kyle Walker, they all played. Some of them only got a few minutes, but it does affect things, and he's got to make the right call there. And that's not the sort of call that anyone's ever had to make for him before. And so, what does he do there? It's very, very tricky. Of course, I've mentioned that is the least of our worries, but it is a concern for these players because it can cause some long-term damage for them if they're exposed to that too early. A lot of the players tried to stand up to it in a comical way when we were celebrating the goals, drinking the beer cups that have been thrown at them. But Harry Kane quickly stopped that, and they'd clearly gone through the possibilities in the changing room. But Gareth Southgate also said before the match that, rightly said, that these problems are not, non-existent in England. There is a small, very small proportion, but still a loud proportion of fans, or can we even call them fans? I don't know, of the population who behave in the same way that to what we saw in Budapest. So you've got to wonder whether the UEFA protocol has to be taken a bit more seriously, a bit more frequently. It's not, it spoils our evening. We don't want to get ready for an England match, buy our popcorn, buy our Pringles, whatever it is, and then, it gets stopped 40 minutes in. We don't want that. But if it has to happen, this is for a bigger cause. You would hope that if it got to that stage, they would take action. That would be what I would hope anyway.
Yeah.
And, I would suggest, I would assume it didn't get to that stage, but there were calls heard by coaching staff, by players, even players who weren't even on the pitch. And so, it can affect them. I wouldn't underestimate how much that might affect their confidence going into future games.
Yeah. Well, it's obviously the next game is Andorra at home, where obviously we'll hope and 99% guarantee that there won't be anything like that at Wembley. Poland, maybe. I don't even really we don't need to go down that just yet. But yeah, just looking forward to Andorra, based on we can't really sort of base it on much on the team that played against Hungary because we know full well that Gareth is going to chop and change it around. But it is going to be a good opportunity for, I don't know, maybe Nick Pope, Patrick Bamford, Bukayo Saka to come in, gets all these sort of players that are within the squad to get another cap.
Yeah, I was thinking just after that Hungary game, we're still waiting, and even looking at the Euros as well. 4 goals for Kane. I think it was a goal for Maguire, 3 goals for Sterling. We're still waiting for some of the younger players to get regular goals for England, and this could be a good chance to sort of make that happen a bit quicker. In these sorts of games, it can get their confidence up if they've been thrust into games against Germany and Denmark in knockout games of tournaments. That's not really the sort of environment when you expect a new player to get their first goal. So I'll certainly be looking for Saka, Mason Mount. I know Mason Mount's already got 4 England goals. Saka's already got 1. But for these sorts of players, even Patrick Bamford, if he plays, to get some goals on the board, we want the depth of the squad to have these numbers to their names. So it's a good opportunity. I wouldn't underestimate Andorra. You know, with all due respect to San Marino, they're not San Marino. They may not camp behind the ball as much. You know, that could leave space in behind, but I think they will bring the game to England. It's a big deal for them playing at Wembley. I've been to Andorra and I've seen their stadium, their old stadium and their new stadium, and it's a big step up, let me tell you, playing at Wembley in front of 90,000 fans. So I think they'll be ready for that. I think this will be the game of the 3 games this month that they will have looked at more than any other. But I'll be excited to see some of the younger, perhaps newer faces get a start, get some game time in that game. People like Jude Bellingham. I know Jordan Henderson's had injury troubles that pretty much kept him out of the starting lineup at the Euros. It'd be good to see him get some game time as well. You mentioned there Nick Pope. I don't know whether we will change the goalkeeper. If we do, it's a good opportunity for them. Any team you play against, it's still an England cap. Whether or not you make 20 saves or 2 saves, still an England cap. So I'd like to see some fresh faces in there, and then look to Poland to get that win as well, round the international break off well.
Oh, that would be nice. 9 points from a maximum 9 would be good, and top that group going into it's October, isn't it? Into the next 2 games. Yeah, Aidan, thank you very much for your time as always, and perhaps we can catch up at the Andorra Wembley game.
Yeah, brilliant. Look forward to it. Thanks, Russell.
No worries. And as always, you can find Aidan on threelions.net. So Andorra at home, Andorra at Wembley. Gareth Southgate made 11 changes from that starting side against Hungary. That was the 4-0 win. And obviously England fans would be going into this one with huge or higher expectations. As I say, 11 changes. Sam Johnston, Reece James, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Kieran Trippier, Tyrone Mings, Connor Cody, Jude Bellingham, Jordan Henderson, Patrick Bamford made his debut. Jesse Lingard was back and Bukayo Saka. And here to join me and go over it, just mull it all over. Welcome back to Matt Astbury. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Ross. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all good. I think the line's a bit in and out, but we'll see how we get on. You were there, weren't you?
Yes, I made the trip down to Wembley on Sunday, and in the sweltering heat got to see interesting performance, to say the least. But obviously came away with the 3 points. We're already one step closer to Qatar next December.
That's right, yeah. I mean, 4-0 was a great result, and it was, a B side, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very experimental. I mean, there was no surprise that Patrick Bamford started. There was rumours he was going to play from straight after the final whistle at Hungary. I mean, Trippier came back in. Tyrone Mings and Connor Cody are centre-back. Reece James came in. But the main eye-opener was when it was Trent Alexander-Arnold who Gareth Southgate decided to put from the team selection. Clearly, Southgate was using this game as an experiment really, to see if he could mess a few positions with players. It was great to see Jesse Lingard back in the team as well, but I think some are questioning his eligibility to be in the side, considering he hasn't really played that much for Manchester United this season. But overall, no, it was an experimental lineup, but at the end of the day, they came away with the 3 points, even though a flurry of goals came on when the likes of Grealish and Harry Kane came on as well. But at the end of the day, Southgate's got to give all these players a go, and also with it being a triple header of international matches as well.
Yeah, obviously Andorra sort of filled the back line. It was a big wall of red trying to get through them. But part of me was like, am I being a bit too hard on them, thinking that we should be able to, a team like that with experienced professionals, we should be able to break down a team like Andorra a little bit easier than it actually took.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give credit to Andorra, I think. Even though the scoreline says 4-0, they put everything on the line, in my opinion. I thought they were, obviously, they tried to be as disciplined as they could, but I do agree with you there. I think going in at half-time with just the one goal to our name through Jesse Lingard, I think that wasn't, I think at half-time when it felt, going in at 1-0, it felt like we are better. That lineup should do better. I mean, Bamford, I don't think he's helped himself too much in his debut. I know obviously it's his first game in the first team. There's a lot of expectation on his shoulders considering the role he plays for. It was more concerning in terms of putting teams to the sword rather than the performance. It was like we should be like 2 or 3-0 up here.
Yeah, you did just break up a bit there, but I mean, I'm just going to reiterate a bit on Bamford.
Yeah.
Do you think Bamford? I mean, obviously it was his first appearance for England, and then deserved his chance following like his performances at Leeds. But do you think he grabbed it with both hands?
No, I honestly don't think he did. Unlike someone like Bukayo Saka when he made a run of England starts, Dominic Calvert-Lewin even getting a goal, Grealish showing the impact he can have. Yeah, I don't think he took it. I forgot he was playing, to be honest. Obviously, the physical team like Andorra, they're going to obviously be there to annoy and disrupt the striker. But I wasn't too impressed with his debut, and I won't be surprised if he doesn't get a run out against Poland. I won't be surprised if he doesn't get selected in the next squad for the October games.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, obviously Southgate took the opportunity to look at him, and he knows he's there. And I think he only sort of made it in personally, probably because of a few injuries to other players. I mean, Jesse Lingard as well. Although obviously he scored 2. With the situation at Manchester United now, the certain Ronaldo coming in, I mean, is he going to get the opportunities at United to continue to be in the forefront of Gareth's thoughts?
That's a big, big problem for Lingard now, I think. Obviously, with how quick this Ronaldo deal unfolded, then Lingard didn't exactly have time to plan an exit out if he thought he wanted more game time. And now Ronaldo's there. I am concerned about Lingard's game time because if you're going to be a top international footballer, you've got to be coming into the side at the peak of your powers. Yeah, I'm a bit worried about Lingard. I think, to be honest, I don't think he should have stayed at United anyway. I think West Ham should have put in a bid for him. But again, this isn't a Premier League podcast. This is about England. So yeah, if he doesn't get a lot of playing time at Manchester United, I think we might have seen the last of Jesse Lingard in an England shirt for a while because at the end of the day, Gareth is attending games as much as he can. We've seen him on the TV, up in the high in the stands. And if you're not out there on the pitch, he's not going to pick you. He wants, and also this England team now is come towards its peak and it's so difficult to get into. That's why any opportunity you get, you have to grasp it with both hands. And even though Lingard did score 2 at the end of the day, no disrespect to Andorra, but it was Andorra. We should be beating them. So yeah, Lingard now needs to realise that, right, I've got to really, put 110% in effort in training in every game for Manchester United to get that starting spot for his club and hopefully he can be a regular feature in England's side.
Yeah. With the second, third and fourth goals all came after the substitutions. It was, as I say, Kane, Grealish and Mount came on. Kane scored his 40th England goal from the spot after actually Grealish and Mount combined. But the player that I thought really stood out, and I'm so pleased that he did, Bukayo Saka, obviously the first game back at Wembley following the final. He had an opportunity real early on, provided the assist for Lingard to score his first goal, and then towards the end got the goal, which I didn't realise at the time was actually on his 20th birthday.
Yeah, do you know what? I couldn't be happier for him. I mean, first of all, the surfer banner put together by Block 109, and obviously all the England fans were chipping in. I thought for a start that was great. And when his name was getting read out over the PA, even while they were warming up, and also when they were reading out the teams, he got the biggest cheer, which was great to see. Everyone was behind him, and you could tell when I've watched the game back or seen highlights, things like that, he's now, he was playing with a smile on his face because he knew he had the backing of the 60 or 70,000 in the stadium. So no, I couldn't be happier for him, and got a few goals to his name. And do you know what? Fair play. He's so mature for his age. I mean, for what he went through after missing that penalty must have been soul destroying. But for him to come back like that and play with a smile on his face and know that he's got the backing of the true England fans, let's say that I'm going to put that now, the ones who get beyond the team no matter what, through thick or thin, I think he would be going, after that game, he went to bed thinking, do you know what? I've got a backing of a nation behind me.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I was looking back on it when I did find out it was his birthday. He was actually born the same day England beat Albania up at Newcastle in 2001, which meant he wasn't even alive when England beat Germany 5-1, which made me feel quite old.
I think anyone like that was good. I mean, now I'm 24 years old, and a number of footballers are playing well now. I mean, Phil Foden's another one. I was 5 years old, spent just doing all sorts of areas playing football. So, I couldn't be happier for him.
Yeah, and you mentioned the surfer banner that Block 109 and various England supporters organisations put together and supporters chipped in for, which was really, really great touch and looked absolutely amazing. Yeah, on to Poland. Obviously, it's going to be a totally different team again. Can any of those players that played in that starting 11 make the starting 11 for Poland, do you think?
I think the only one would be Saka, I think. But even then, I think we'll be seeing a similar team to what started against Hungary, to be honest, because Poland is, I don't know what their stadium is. Are they allowing 100% capacity, or is they are going to be fans in attendance? But I don't know how many. I don't know if it's going to be.
I don't know if it's a percentage or what, no, but there will be supporters in there.
Well, it's going to be a similar atmosphere to Hungary, I reckon. But no, I think we're going to be seeing a similar team to Hungary. I think the reason why Southgate gave the likes of Kane and Grealish and Mount a run out was just to keep on top of their match fitness, just to keep them ticking over. But, I'm expecting a similar team to Hungary and hopefully a similar clinical display.
Oh yeah, that'd be good. Give us 9 points out of 9 for this international break. And I think I read somewhere if that is the case and results go our way, then I believe that we would only need a point in the next window, the next break in October, to secure qualification.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this at the Green Man before the game. Literally all it was, what everyone was talking about was get through this triple header with the tough away trips. If we could get through it without losing, then we might as well, we're basically there. But we're already, as you said, if we get past Poland, get the win there, whatever way, we are literally 1 point or so away from qualifying, which will be nice. It takes all the stress away. So, no, I mean, England, this qualifying campaign, they've been efficient, they've been clinical. So, yeah, hopefully in October it could be one where we see a few more new faces as Southgate starts to get that squad ready for Qatar in 2022.
Absolutely. Let's look forward to it. Matt, thank you as always for joining us. I know the line was a little bit dodgy, but I think we got most of that there. Just give us a heads up where we can read some of your work. Yes,
so you can follow me on Twitter at Astbury Matt. Obviously, we'll put all the links in the social media posts, and then you can read my blogs and things like that at mattasburysport.wordpress.com. The next England diaries will be out sometime after the Poland game. I'm going to do another triple header again. So, keep an eye out on social media, and I'll be plugging it around to see once it's up.
Super. Cheers, mate. Thank you very much for your time.
Cheers. Thanks very much, Russell.
Let's catch up with Don Smith from englandfootball.org, who's been busy of late. We'll find out soon why. But before that, let's take a look at that last game that involved England. Poland away in Warsaw. And as Matt Astbury called it, Gareth Southgate elected to pick the same starting 11 that faced Hungary just 6 days before. Let's welcome back Dom. Hi, Dom.
Hello, how are we doing?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, very well, although it was a slightly arduous watch last night, wasn't it?
I think it's something that we needed to have or to watch, to experience after maybe the previous 2 games. Obviously, there was the 2 4-0 wins. Hungary was a little bit harder to start with, but then we made it our own in the second half, and likewise Andorra, which we made hard work of for a little while in that game. So I think a test was needed, really. And especially, as I spoke with a few other people, that after the Euros, would there be some sort of hangover from it? And I think it's safe to say there hasn't really been one. We've come out firing on all cylinders generally.
I think these days, the way that kind of the media and fans think about England is perhaps with a bit more perspective, which is probably a good thing. And I think in the past, maybe you'd have looked at that game and thought, in the immediacy, what a shame to lose those 2 points in the 92nd minute. And what a shame to dock 2 points whenever you docked them, just a shame not to win every single qualifier. But actually, I think I've heard a lot of people since the game saying that we needed that, a test after the tournament in qualifying. England haven't found too many qualifiers in the last few years, and that's compliment to Gareth Southgate, particularly hard. I think England seemed to waltz through qualifying, and they even did in the Roy Hodgson era, and we know under Capello as well. But that kind of makes preparations for tournaments harder because you're playing against such easy opposition that by the time you get to the tournaments, all you can really do is put a couple of meaningful friendlies ahead of the tournament and then hope for the best. But they don't even do that, the FA, because they're too scared that England might go into a tournament on the back of a defeat. So they put games with Ecuador, Hungary and teams like that. I think it was good, not that England didn't win, but that England had to really work hard for that. And ultimately, perhaps that late equaliser from Szymanski might actually be a good thing because it will remind England that there is still work to do when perhaps they would have felt after the Andorra game that maybe they're as close as they've ever been to being one of the best sides in the world after a Euros final and 2 4-0 wins, particularly the one in Budapest, which I think after the hostility of the occasion and the racist abuse from some sections of the crowd, maybe the quality of that victory was lost and understandably so, but that was a very decisive win. So I think the fact that England have dropped points against Poland in the long term might not be too much of a bad thing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. If someone was to say to you at the beginning of this international window, here you go, 7 points, you'd pretty much bite your hand off, wouldn't you? Do you think it was right, the starting 11 that you picked, the same against Hungary?
I don't see why not. I think in this squad, you were certainly limited in terms of options on the wide areas. Mason Greenwood, for one reason or another, wasn't in the squad. I think the general consensus of that is that England kind of agree with Man United's stance on it, which is that we'd like him to perform and kind of star a little bit away from the limelight rather than for England, although Man United isn't really away from the limelight that much.
Not at the moment.
Obviously, no, certainly not. Rashford's obviously having surgery. Phil Foden's injured. So really, your wide options were quite limited to Sterling, Saka and Grealish, and that was about it, really. So I think it made sense to keep the same lineup. I think it is England's strongest lineup from the squad that's there. And I think any fans that disagree with that would be in the minority, really. Everyone's got their own opinion, but I think most people would say that was England's strongest 11. So to make 11 changes for the Andorra game and then to make the 11 changes back to the Hungary team, I think made sense. If the Andorra game hadn't been in the middle, I don't think it would have been an identical lineup from one game to the next. But since the Andorra game did come in the middle, that's now the 40th game in a row that England have made at least one change between lineups. The last time that they went unchanged was actually in the World Cup back in 2018. So that might be a problem, you might say, or you might say just a compliment to the riches that Southgate's got at his disposal. And I think which side of the coin you take is up to interpretation, really.
Yeah, no, interesting start. I wasn't aware of that one. You mentioned Sterling and Saka. I think they both had a fabulous break. Many of the players did, but you mentioned Grealish as well, and I will love to watch Grealish. And I was watching him last night, and there's just something about him. And it's always been said before. Obviously, he goes down a little bit easy, shall we say? But he does draw those fouls in. But another thing that I sort of picked up on, and I'm wondering if this will materialise going further on, he seems quite easy to perhaps wind up, and I'm sceptical whether that might be something that maybe future oppositions may target. I don't know.
Well, I think he certainly looked easy to wind up against Poland. I agree with that, but I've always found with Grealish, how happy he is in game is often dependent on whether the referee is his friend that day or not. Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily a good a good kind of determinant for your mood in game. You should be able to find inspiration, or not inspiration, but you should be able to find calm and kind of a composed character, whether or not the referee is giving decisions your way. But Grealish does seem so dependent on winning those fouls that actually, if 3 or 4 don't go his way, he seems to be in a foul mood for the rest of the match, and that can't be good on in terms of what he provides when he's on the ball. I think his ability to win fouls is incredible, and it's a massive asset, and it's quite uncanny how successful it usually is. It wasn't against Poland, to be fair. I think the refereeing was quite poor in that game, to be honest. Certainly, I've heard it said before that really he's so talented that he's just gone for £100 million. I don't think he needs to base his game quite so much on the fouls. I think he's such a capable, raw footballer that really he should be able to impact games in ways beyond that. And he's assisted a number of times for England. I haven't got the stat with me, to be fair, on how many assists he's got. But it must be north of 5 or 6, and he's played less than 20 games for England, but he hasn't scored yet, and that will be weighing on his mind. And in fact, he did a recent interview, and he said that it is. And this would have been a great international break for him to get his goal. So that heightened impact is important, and we need to see that in future international breaks, I think.
Well, with a full season at Manchester City coming his way, and working with the players that he will be working with, perhaps those parts of his game may come out over the next 12 months, and obviously benefit England. We've got to talk Harry Kane, haven't we? 41 goals now for Harry Kane. He's 41st last night, and what a goal! And when it happened, ITV were a little bit behind. They kind of caught Sam Matterface on the hop, really, with that one, because it was just sort of very un-Harry Kane-like. And I found a YouTube video of Harry Kane's England goals, or previous 40 of them, and he's never scored further out than that. And in fact, only one of them has been outside the box, and you could just about say it was outside the box. So yeah, great goal from Harry Kane, and it shows what else he's got to his bow. String and bow, whatever they say.
Well, I was just about to make that point, really, that while he scored a lot of goals for England, 41, and he scored a lot of important goals, having won the Golden Boot at the World Cup and got really close, actually, with in the knockout stages of the Euros, he's never scored many good goals for England. Important goals are good goals, you could argue, but technically good goals. Yeah. He scored a few. He scored one in that friendly win over Germany under Roy Hodgson, where he did that nice Cruyff turn and flung it in the corner, and Neuer was nowhere near it. But it's slim pickings in terms of like technically impressive goals that he scored for England, and that was a lovely one. And I think it's such a humorous way to score the only goal of the night against Poland. You try everything to score an England goal, which is really to get in behind, to peg it back, and someone to finish from close range. A kind of walk it in the net goal, which a team as good as England should be able to do. But you try up to 70 minutes to no avail, and then you just hoof it from. Maybe that's harsh, but you get the point. You turn, you see no options, and rather than spraying out wide, you just hammer it on goal from 32 yards, and it goes in. And maybe there's a lesson there. Certainly a lovely goal, and he came so close to scoring the only goal in a 1-0, which he hasn't done too many times for England. He's not really been the difference maker in a one-goal game too many times. World Cup 2018, you've got to give him that. Certainly against Tunisia, his performance stands out, but of course, Poland came back and got that late equaliser, which you watch the body language of the England players, and they just looked both shattered and so disappointed with themselves.
Yeah, well, let's look at that. I mean, as frustrating as it was, I had my head in my hands for a moment, and it was like, okay, we've got a draw out of this. I'm happy with it. As I say, 7 points out of 9. But I think it was a decent goal that you can't knock it. I think it was Moda, however you pronounce his name, passed Walker with a fabulous bit of skill. The ball went into the box, came out again, and Lewandowski crossed it in beautifully for, what's his name, Zelensky's to head home.
Szymanski, yeah.
Szymanski, beg your pardon. I've got no complaints with the goal, really.
No, I agree. The only complaint you could have, and I think probably should have, is that Kyle Walker can't let Modder beat him that easily. I mean, we know that Kyle Walker is the right back of all of England's many right backs chosen to come into a back three when England do play a back three because of his defensive ability and now we know that's largely more because of his recovery pace than his ability to tackle, but he can't let the player beat him that easily. Ultimately that's what conceded the goal, really. The cross came in from Modder. It was half cleared because England were shattered, and that's partly because there were no substitutions, and I'm sure we'll get onto that. But Lewandowski, clipped it back in very nicely, and Szymanski was there to make it 1-1. England didn't make any substitutions in the game, and Southgate was saying afterwards that really it would have been substitutions for the sake of it if he had brought someone on. I see that perspective, I do, but equally, you're going to have to trust more than 11 of your players at some point because you've got a tournament coming up. You've just had a tournament, and also you need to be able to see the game out. Jordan Henderson is the Liverpool captain. I mean, he was only playing Andorra at the weekend, but I don't know if you watched Jordan Henderson's performance as intently as I did, but he absolutely ran that game. It was against Andorra, who are minnows and who he should have had the control of, but he was in control of everything. He was picking up the ball, recovering it, spraying it around everywhere. Well, we've seen him do that against much better opposition for his club and his country before. So if you're not going to bring him on to hold the game out, why is he even in the team? Why is he even in the squad? And Jesse Lingard, while maybe he won't play a big part for Man United this season, certainly seems to be a player who works particularly well for Southgate's England, seems to understand the system very well and is very reliable. So why he wasn't brought on for someone like Mason Mount, who wasn't very impactful and really, for once, he's fantastic for England, but for once Mason Mount just looked like he was running around aimlessly, really. So I think I would have brought off Phillips, who, as well as that yellow card, which you always run the risk of getting another, always looked a little bit off the pace last night. I wasn't too impressed by Phillips' performance. So I think Phillips and Mount for Lingard and Henderson, and much earlier than when they conceded to Poland, by the way, would have been sensible substitutions. But I also see the perspective of we didn't need to make any substitutions. But you look at the last 10 minutes and you say England looked absolutely shattered. And if substitutions aren't there to cure tiredness, then what are they for?
Yeah, I mean, a lot's been made of the substitution issue. And yes, obviously England looked a bit sort of bedraggled as the game was coming to its conclusion. But as Roy Keane said after the game, if Poland hadn't have scored and had equalised in that last minute at the injury time, then not a great deal would have been made of no substitutions. And as well, I kind of think we could have made substitutions and Poland could have still scored that goal.
Yeah.
You can weigh it up either way. And there's also the other argument.
I take your point.
Yeah, there's also the other argument of maybe England need to be trying to see out games more than just a 1-0. But this is exactly why I think we needed a test like this to come away with 3 wins and 9 points out of 9. Then perhaps we wouldn't have learnt a great deal. But by having this event conceded in the last minute, then there's plenty for Gareth and his team to come away and go, right, well, I need to work on that. I need to make sure that doesn't happen against Albania and Andorra, I think, in October. I'm all in all, I'm quite happy with that international window.
Yeah, and as I've said, perversely, I'm almost pleased in the long term that England didn't win the game, because they'll look at that in a way that if they glanced through on a 1-0, maybe they'd have analysed it less. Maybe the FA analysts would listen to this and be tearing their hair out and say, no, we analysed everything perfectly. But you get the picture. But the only thing I'd say to what you said was, you say, oh, well, as Roy Keane said, sort of, if that goal didn't happen, we wouldn't be scrutinising it. Yeah, but it did happen. And we can only go on what did happen. And that's that England couldn't clear their lines because they were shattered and couldn't put their foot through it. And so they did concede and they did dock 2 points that they didn't need to dock. There doesn't need to be a scapegoat. And we'll never know whether England would have performed better or maybe even worse had they brought on substitutions, let alone the substitutions I suggest. sat in my room here talking about it. But, that's just football. That's speculation. And I certainly think England's quality on the bench was enough to come on and make a difference in a game where a difference was needed. And I think it was needed, because England really looked like they were hoping not to concede in those last sort of 10-5 minutes, and they didn't need to get that far. To bring on Lingard and maybe Henderson to shore the game up would have been smart substitutions, but we'll never know whether that would have worked out better or worse.
That's why we love the game. Yeah, you say you're sitting there in your room talking to me now, but one place where you weren't watching the game in your room was the Andorra game, where you had the privilege of sitting in the press box at Wembley, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I've been able to engage in the England press conferences via kind of video link for a year or so, but not been able to get to any of the games in a press capacity. So it was good to get to the Andorra game. And it's a good first game to sort of start with filing on the whistle from the stadium, because you kind of know what you're going to get. Yeah. You're going to get a glut of goals, albeit they came quite late, and you're going to get an England victory that's perhaps not dazzling, because playing against a team that defensive is never going to be. But yeah, really enjoyable. Although it was a very hot day, very hot. I'm guessing you were at the game, weren't you?
Yeah, I was in the.
It was really humid.
Yeah, I was in the upper tier for that one, where I was quite far back, actually. I haven't been that far back for quite some time. But what's the view like from the press box? What's the sort of environment there? Who are you sitting next to?
So there was sort of the mainstream media were just slightly along, and then there was quite near to me was all the people from the FA and people like that. And there was a little bit of local press as well from papers in Brent or the area, okay. But it was mainly just the national papers. And you've got the lounge where you get your meal, and so yeah, you get it was nice. We saw a couple of faces that I know reasonably well, and I saw the BBC 5 Live guys recording. So yeah, it was a good experience, and I'd expect I'll probably be back in October or November. So it was certainly a good start.
So what meal did you get? Go on. What did they feed you with?
Oh, it was strange. It was strange, really. It was sort of a mash and veg kind of meal, but it was very nice.
Good stuff.
And dessert was a brownie. So
lovely. God, let's just quickly look forward to October, where we've got Andorra away and Hungary at home at Wembley. I think it's a couple of points or a win in one of those games will see us through, won't it?
Yeah, I mean, we'll just have to be careful, because whoever else is playing kind of games against San Marino and Andorra next month are likely to get more points than the others. And below us on 16 points, we have Albania on 12 at the moment, and Poland on 11 and Hungary on 10. So any of those could kind of jump above any other in the next round of games, and how well one of those does will limit whether England can kind of officially qualify next round, or whether they'll have to wait again till November. But the point is, England have done so well in these first 6 qualifiers that they're basically there already. Officially, they're not, but certainly 2 wins would go a long way. And I think you probably expect them to get 2 wins, maybe a draw at home to Hungary, but with a home crowd, and we don't know how many Hungarian fans could travel to that game. It might still be 0. Then you'd expect that England should get 6 points, and even on that 3G pitch in Andorra, you'd still expect them to come away with all 3. So, yeah, October should be fairly comfortable for England, but we've been there before. We'll see.
Well, we'll wait and see, and well, perhaps we can catch up in October and mull it all over then.
I look forward to it. Let's hope we're mulling over something good and not something disappointing. Let's see.
Now, officially, there were no tickets made available to England away fans for the 2 recent games that we had, but that didn't stop many fans making the trip to both Hungary and Poland and getting tickets over there. It was one way of doing it. And one of those fans that did exactly that was Chelsea and England fan Kunal Sapat. We've spoken before, and it's good to speak again. Kunal, you're back. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm back, and just back from these 2 away trips, unofficial away trips.
Well, that's right. They unofficial from an England travel club perspective. But you decided to go to Budapest for Hungary and Warsaw for Poland. All straightforward, was it, on the kind of the flights and sort of whatever you have to go through with all the paperwork and virus side of things?
Well, as it was approaching closer to both these games, a few of us, we still wanted to go as long as the countries let us in. We wanted to try and get tickets, and we wanted to do our best to get there. Until about a week before Hungary, we weren't sure what the requirements, if they're going to change or not. But we managed to get to Hungary fairly easily. I think we just needed a PCR test to get in. It's amber country. For myself, I didn't have to quarantine on return because I'm double vaccinated.
Yeah.
And it was similar for Poland. For Poland, if you're double vaccinated, you didn't need to do any tests to get in. But obviously, we still have to do the tests on return, which I think, we have to do with most places now, anywhere you're going. But that aside, there wasn't any issues going there, and there wasn't really any issues getting to see the game either.
Oh, good stuff. Good to hear. I mean, obviously there was no tickets made available by the England Supporters Club. So how did you go about getting tickets for both of them? Was it straightforward?
Well, we were just looking online. We were just trying to see if we could get tickets through that, the home FA's websites, or just look around and ask people. I think actually my brother works with someone Hungarian who sort of gave us the information on where the tickets would be going on sale, on general sale. And, they were available to buy to anyone. We did have to buy a package, actually. We had to buy tickets to Hungary versus England and Hungary versus Andorra as a package to actually get the England tickets.
Oh, right.
But for us, the price of the ticket was the same as it would cost to just see one game at Wembley anyway, in the home end. So we weren't really out of pocket by having to buy two matches. So and getting into Hungary, the ground, there wasn't really any issues. They asked to see your PCR test or vaccination status. Few of the lads did get a question, where are you from and all that, but we all sort of went in with different entrances, and we all managed to get in. 4 of us went in together. We actually were right in the upper tier, at the back. 4 of us stood together, and then we got there, and there was about maybe 10 other England fans right near us. So
really?
There was an unofficial England away end, although there were people spread across the ground, seeing from pictures and social media. So it wasn't just our bit, but there was quite a number of people who had done the same as us and the same thinking as us. And the stadium was incredible to see. So it was a good ground to see a match at.
Yeah, I mean, with Hungary, obviously we watched it on the telly back here, and we saw all the scenes that unfortunately unfolded. What was the atmosphere like in there? Was it like being an unofficial traveller?
As I said, we were in the upper tier, and there was a mix of people there. There was families, there was locals. We didn't have any issues right there. Atmosphere seemed okay there. But right below us was the so-called, I guess, the ultras and or whatever you call it. You can see from the lower tier down there, obviously they were abusive towards our players and throwing objects and all that stuff. But I don't think there were any England fans in that section anyway. As I said, where we were right at the top, it was okay. It was all fine, and it was actually, they even let us celebrate. Actually,
really?
Not too intensely, obviously, but we could celebrate, and no one would say anything to us. So there was no issues there. There was no issues getting out the ground, but it was clear that below us in the lower tier, the atmosphere probably wasn't as pleasant, and probably wouldn't have been if we were behind the goal. But from our experience, it was all good.
Oh, good stuff. Understandable. Yeah. I mean, what about Budapest as a city? Did you get a chance to have a look around there and enjoy it?
Yeah, definitely. It's got numerous bars. I think they've got ruin bars and various different bars that are good to visit, and cheap drinks as well. But also the more cultural side, they've got the thermal baths. Me and 2 friends, we did like a boat cruise as well. So we did fit in a few things other than just the football. And Budapest is a great city, and it's actually the second time I've been there, so I sort of knew where to go and what to do, and definitely enjoyed the visit there.
And then Warsaw for Poland, a ground that I've been to, sat in, but not actually watched a game there, having been in
when was it, 2013, I think, when the heavens opened and they postponed the game by 24 hours. But that's a cracking stadium, that one, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that was an amazing stadium as well. Just like Budapest, it was Warsaw Stadium was a ground that you need to visit if you've not visited. And again, just like Budapest, we had tickets right at the top, but we were happy to be there. Quite a few of us were stood together. Actually, we even managed to get a flag up in the ground, and they didn't have a problem with that. I would say that atmosphere overall might have been better in Poland, actually, from the home crowd. Actually,
Yeah,
it just seemed a better atmosphere overall, and maybe slightly to the edge over Budapest in terms of the ground and the atmosphere. But really, both of them, I can't complain. They were great and great fun to be at. The only thing, I guess, we didn't get the win in Poland, but I'll take the points we got and the trips we've had. Like, I think I was in Warsaw for similar time as I was in Budapest. So both cities, I got to experience the local area and enjoy the sights and the local hospitality as well.
yeah. Watching on the telly for the Poland game, God Save the Queen was certainly audible by plenty of fans, English fans singing it. Do you reckon there were more fans in Poland than there were in Hungary?
I definitely think so. So when we went to Hungary, we bumped into a few fans, more and more as sort of they got to match day, or sort of you're walking around and you bump into some other fans. But I definitely think more people made the effort for Poland. I don't know, perhaps it was slightly easier to get into or something, but there were definitely more people we saw as the days went on and as it came to match day, and more people we were near in the ground as well.
Yeah. Well, squeezed in the middle of those two games was, of course, the Andorra game at Wembley, which obviously you got to as well, because you were one of the main organisers behind the fantastic Walk Tall banner that was unveiled just before the kickoff there. That's
right. So I think the idea for the banner came about a couple of months ago, just after the Euros. Obviously, we saw the abuse that some of the players received online, and the unfair treatment they had, and we got together with different groups. I think we spoke to you as well, and a few other like-minded people, and we came up with the idea to sort of show our support in a positive way. And we came up with the design for the banner, or crowd surfer as you call it, with the message "Walk Tall," and sort of showing that we walk tall alongside them, and we support them. To show that the real supporters don't abuse the players. Real supporters are there to show support and back them 100%. That was a clear message we wanted to show, and this was unveiled before kickoff, right behind the goal in the home end.
Yeah, it looked fantastic from the pictures I saw. Unfortunately, I got in just after it had been basically taken down, which was really frustrating from my perspective. But what sort of reaction has it got? Has it got people talking? Do you know?
Yeah, it definitely has. People noticed it, and people have said, "Well done for doing that." In fact, it was in Warsaw. We bumped into a couple of media people, and we got chatting to them, and they said, "Yeah, well done for doing it," and it looked great, and it was a great idea.
Yeah, it was a crowd-funded initiative by everyone within sort of Block 109 who contributed, or not just within Block 109, but contributed to its making. Are there plans to have future banners, crowd surfers like this in future games?
And definitely, we're always looking to do different ideas and banners and flags to show support. There will definitely be more to come as we go along. We've done different banners over the last few years, but something as big as this, a large crowd surfers, we want to get more ideas going, get more of these done. Well, this was a fan-funded crowd surfer, but we have kept the donations page still open to make up the full amount. If anyone still wants to contribute, we've just left that open as well. But in future, we'll be doing more of these and looking for new ideas as we go along.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously there's the monthly draw that takes place, and I saw as well, I know we spoke previously about Wembley.
That's right.
The beer that was produced, and that's coming to the end of its run, and there's still a few left if people want to grab a bottle of that.
That's right. So we launched Wembley around April time, before the Euros, sort of get the buzz going around the Euros, raise a bit of money for grassroots football, and just have a beer for the England fans to drink and enjoy. We are coming to the end of it very soon, actually, and the last remaining stock is still available. But if you want one, you're going to have to be very, very quick, because it won't be available after that.
Tell us the website where we can go and get that one.
So if you go to block109.co.uk, you can get a case of Wembley for half the price now. And if you're not a member of Block 109, you can sign up there as well, and have more involvement in banners and other ideas we do going forward.
Excellent. It's a great fan initiative, and I'm pleased to be part of it in some way, small shape or form. So thanks, and keep up the good work, Kunal.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening. Much appreciated. Cheers to Kunal there, and cheers to Aidan, to Matt and Dom. They are all on social media. Go check Three Lions podcast, and you'll find them all linked there. It's been a fairly long one, this, but with 3 games to recap on, I hope we've done them all justice, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Now, the next international window is in October, when we travel to Andorra on the 9th. And I say we, it is looking highly likely that England supporters will be able to make the journey. And then we will entertain Hungary at Wembley on the 12th of October. And of course we will have the usual preview nearer the time. But I'll be back with you very soon with another Three Lions podcast. I hope you can join me for it. Cheers.